Have other states done constitutional conventions, or are we breaking new ground here?
You know, we're not. There have been over 200 state constitutional conventions since the U.S. Constitution came into being in the late 1700s. So it's actually quite common in many other states. There's about a third of the states regularly have a question that goes before the voters. Every 15 years, varies by state, 10, 15, 20 years. Should we hold a constitutional convention? It's done as a check on the government. And most of the time folks vote against it because it's not necessary. A constitutional convention is a good thing to do at a time when a state is having serious problems. Now, there have been quite a few of them, and some of them work well, and some of them don't. And it's a question of getting the mix of people right and whether the timing is right. And sometimes by the time they have the convention, the problem abates because it's economically driven. But over 200 constitutional conventions since the formation of the United States.
You have these initiatives in with the Attorney General. So what's next? How do we get from here to there? What has to happen?
Yeah, it's technical stuff. They've passed a lot of laws to empower the political attorneys who are making a lot of money in California from all the rules around this stuff. So I won't take you too deep into it. But as a promulgator of an initiative, you produce the language. You submit it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General submits it to the legislative analyst who provides fiscal analysis. How much is this going to cost us? Then it goes back to the Attorney General for a little bit of legal analysis. But what the Attorney General does is they interpret what you've done and prepare a title and summary. And that's what you see at the top of the ballot when you go vote on stuff. And the Attorney General produces that title and summary. Once you get that back, they do not opine on the constitutionality of your measures. They do that in other states, but they don't do it in California. And so a lot of times what you'll see happen is we go through the whole process, and then as soon as the voters pass the thing, it immediately goes to court because there's been no analysis done previously by the state. So it goes to the Attorney General. Once they spit back the title and summary of the measures, we have two, then we have there's a deadline at the end of April by which all measures have to be achieve enough signatures in order to go on the ballot if you want to be on the November 2010 ballot. And so every day that the Attorney General doesn't give us back the measures at this point is one day less that we have to collect the signatures. And there's a certain amount of time the Attorney General has. We think by about mid-December, we think we'll see this in mid-December. And we'll have to the end of April, about 4.5 months, to collect 1,700,000, 1,800,000 signatures to qualify the two measures. So it's all, we need to raise several $1,000,000 to build a statewide organization to collect the signatures. We want to do something very, very different. We do not want to have paid signature gatherers who don't have any stake in the measure. We want to have people who are actually vested in this thing. And so that hasn't been done before. It requires building up a team statewide to do that, of people who are engaged in the issue. We want to have a lot of volunteer activity. We want to have a lot of online activity supporting this and so forth. Because this issue seems to really appeal to people. We want to take advantage of that.
This is going to be on the ballot if it works in November of 2010. Are there going to be other ballot initiatives that are likely to be on at that point in time, and how is this going to stack up against all those?
So the recent issues we've had, particularly with the budget, but it goes beyond the budget, have caused every special interest group to have its own ballot measure, to think that, hey, we could have a ballot measure too. We better defend ourselves by having a ballot measure. In some cases, their ballot measure is like the League of California Cities has one, to protect it further from the state taking money from cities. There are other groups that have ballot measures that point a gun at the head of groups that they don't like. So labor, organized labor, have groups that attack business. Business has measures that attack labor. It's real fun, but there's 80 measures that have been submitted. 80 separate initiatives have been submitted for title and summary, which is by far a record. Now, it's not feasible to assume that all of those, there'll be enough money in the society to support the signatures for all of those, or that some of the groups are using them as a hedge. But we suspect, at the end of the day, you'll have A to Z initiatives on the November 10 ballot. Now, remember how we felt last May when the legislature handed us 6 measures. You know, we rejected them, except for the one that curtailed their salaries, right? And so the public is fed up with this stuff. You know, ballot fatigue is real, and we could have literally more than 25 or 30 ballot measures on at one time. Endless TV commercials, hitting one group against the other. Your ballot book being fatter than the phone book. And you as a voter are expected to understand this stuff, and it's just going to cause more frustration. We think that the Constitutional Convention, which would be 2 of those 80 or 30 or 40, could rise above. And the message would be, look, enough is enough with this stuff. It's time to call a Constitutional Convention and have the people take a real look at this and decide what our future, what our governance system ought to look like.
November 2010 will also have a governor's race. How does that play into this, and what are the governor's candidates and the current governor and prior governors say about this?
Yeah, so we think the Constitutional Convention will be an important issue. The media is covering it, people are taking it seriously, and so forth. And we think that the gubernatorial candidates will be asked to be very clear about their view on this. So far, amazingly, they haven't been, but you know, Gavin Newsom, when he was running, was kind of clear about it. He said he was for a constitutional convention. He said it early. Meg Whitman was quoted as saying she supports it, but we haven't really heard much in detail about it. Tom Campbell helped us write portions of it, I'll admit. He's very supportive of the idea of it. Steve Poizner, we met with not far from here a couple of weeks ago. He'd initially said he didn't think it was a good idea or necessary, but he told us over dinner that as he got to hear more about it, that he wanted to take a harder look at it. Jerry Brown is the Attorney General. He's the one that provides the title and summary. Kind of avoided talking to him about it too much, but I think he'll give it a lot of thought, and in the end it's a political judgment. He may be the only Democratic candidate. He may not have a Democratic primary in effect for that race. His tactic so far has been to do nothing that he hasn't had to do. And so if there's no Democratic primary, I think silence will continue to emanate from the Attorney General's office on the issue, but I don't think he'll say anything bad about it. So that's what we've heard. But ultimately, this will be in November, so it'll be in the head-to-head battle. And I think the candidates will have to, it'll be important that the candidates will have to say what they think about it. If I were them, I would say, let's go for it, because they should be, and Jerry Brown has told me he's very concerned about running California the way it's situated from a governmental perspective now. And there's no reason to think it's going to get a whole lot better. And so it would be good to have this refresh take place as governor, and maybe have a chance to have a better system in place.